Welcome back to IAEE TV. I'm Amy Sweezy. We are sponsored by TMS and produced by CNTV. And joining me now, my next guest, Nancy Drapeau from SEER. You are the Woman of the Year. Thank you so much for being here.
Wow, okay. I'm delighted to be here.
You have the latest and the greatest, the numbers, the data, everything that we look forward to seeing every year. Can you start, first of all, by just sharing what's the latest?
Right, well, just hot off the press today, a news release came out. The third quarter 2025 index report is out. And basically the story is this: in the third quarter, we still remain kind of stalled as an industry. Basically, that's the storyline, I would say, for 2025 so far. There's actually looks like there's a little bit of a downturn, very subtle, but it follows a pattern that we've documented since 2023, the third quarter in 2023, 2024, and this go round is down marginally. I mean, it's 11.1 versus 10.7, so it's 0.04 of or 0.4%. In any event, statistically, that just means there's no change.
Okay.
And the reason why we're stalled, the research uncovers that, just look to the persistence of inflation and the policies flowing from Washington, D.C. are kind of like dampening the performance of our industry. We were expected to be more rapidly approaching recovery, but when you have trade tariffs that are, causing challenges that can then, prompt lower purchases, exhibits from international and the like, it's kept that down. And as well with federal job cuts, the freezing of government funding, depending on which sector you are, you're either negatively impacted by that, if you're in science or medical, or you're not. So quite candidly, the fact that we're stalled and we're not in a more severe situation really speaks to the resilience of our industry despite these challenges. The outlook for 2026, though, is expected to rebound. And why is that the case? Because the extension of the tax cuts of 2017 will infuse more money into the economy, so that will likely enable us to avoid a recession. There are other issues that I would encourage folks listening in to maybe download the Q3 Index quarterly reports available for download. So there's a lot of other great content for folks to explore.
All right. And one of the most exciting things, I think, is that SEER is now going to be a part of IAEE. What does that mean?
Well, it is an exciting moment. I mean, I've been with SEER since 2011, and so there's a little bit of a heart tug of that, it changing. But quite honestly, I think it's a great move, and I've gotten to work with Marsha Flanagan, who's the CEO. I've gotten to go to China. There was a launch of Predict in China. I just think it expands the scope of the research that SEER can do. We're now a division of SEER that becomes official as of January 1st. And their intention is to keep us separate. Why? Because we conduct research for the industry and do so across stakeholder groups. And Marsha is committed to keeping those things separate so that we can continue to capture the sample and the insights that serves the industry overall. So I don't know, I'm kind of excited.
Me too. I think a lot of people are. That's great. Obviously, huge changes since 2020. That was, so devastating for this industry. Well, in a positive way, what are some of the bright spots that you've seen now that we're 5 years later in 2025?
Well, as if Nora talking about we've seen each quarter steady progression towards recovery. There can be interruptions of that. It's almost some of the things we're seeing in DC, I feel like it's the pandemic end in some ways, but I see persistent resilience. We did research in 2021 while most shows were not open. And we asked attendees and exhibitors that once trade shows are available again, will you come back? Exhibitors, 94% said, yes, we're coming back. And what have we seen? What we've seen is that the recovery has been led by exhibitors, exhibitor participation. Attendees said, yes, we're coming back, but it was like 87%. Some said, well, we might look to do things digitally, but 87, and we're seeing that rebound, but there is a little bit perhaps of competition for digital, but not fully. And why? It's because for companies that exhibit for that face-to-face engagement that they need as part of their marketing and selling, this is the place to do it. Digital doesn't cut it. And so, and attendees are coming back. However, they were coming. We saw in the second quarter that attendance was one of the strongest performing metrics, but these other dynamics, again, that we're seeing kind of prompt,
that struggle.
It's a struggle, but they're coming back. I mean, and I'm excited too. If anything, the value and importance of face-to-face has proven itself. That we're back to where we are, and we're not for some of these other unexpected, I call them black swans. I would assert there are flocks of black swans. I mean, the business environment keeps changing, in ways that are not expected. But we're still here, and things keep coming back. So I'm also excited because right now we've just completed in-depth interviews with young professionals. My colleague and I went to 7 different shows on the Eastern Seaboard, and there's a love and a commitment and interest in coming back. Not coming back, but the experience of engagement on the trade show floor is very impactful for young professionals. And I say they're coming back because one of the questions is, would you come back in the future? And it's stunning. We interviewed over 80 people and they're like, yes. It was like without hesitancy.
Right.
And I was expecting, well, digital. No. And I said, well, what if we didn't have trade shows anymore? And there would be vehemence in the answers back saying, no, we need in person. If anything learned during the pandemic is that learning online, these young professionals who went to high school, they did not like having to learn just, online. Mm-hmm. So I think we're poised for a solid movement forward for the industry.
And then once you get them there and they experience that in-person opportunity, then they're like, absolutely, I have to keep coming back.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So as we move into 2026, the future is here. What does the data show? What do you think is coming down the road?
Well, in terms of the data, as I just talked about, 2026, there will be continued positive movement in the industry. It's not expected that we'll fully recover as an industry even through 2027, but the index will be updated next year so that the forecast outlook will be through 2028. Now, the reality is that, again, depending on where you are in the industry, things are very strong and dynamic or they're more challenging. To date, the recovery has been led by the largest trade shows. And they've really been approaching pre-pandemic levels, and, some elements of it might be happening this year or next year. Events that are mid-size, if they're under 200,000 net square feet to 50K, it'll take longer. We see positive progression irrespective of event size, but simply that's the outlook from a market level.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but in the current year we've done a lot of research, and tomorrow we'll be doing a session with Chuck Grizzard and panelists who are organizers to talk about their organizer performance benchmarking approaches, strategic planning. So we've got a deeper set of performance benchmarks organizers can use to integrate into strategic planning. The index tracks 4 metrics: attendance, exhibitors, net square feet of paid space, and gross revenues. This provides a lot more performance benchmarks that are integrated. How does gross revenues break down? What's the net profit? What's the exhibitor retention, attendee acquisition, statistics and the like. So we'll be talking about that. And insights will be available to ramp up tracking approaches with what is apt to help boost positive growth for revenue and attendance and the like from that. Yeah.
we're talking about the future. I feel like we can't not talk about the future and bring up AI, because I mean that's the future. Well, it's not the future; it's the present now, right?
Right, we're in the thick of it, aren't we? Right. We asked questions on an IAEE membership survey about whether organizers and suppliers are using AI to help them in their jobs, and 84% of organizers and a large percentage of the suppliers, said that yes, they're using it. And the use right now is pretty basic, or at least at the timing of that question set in May, was for basic tasks. We held a webinar in October. If anybody's listening in who you want to grab this particular webinar, it scored really well. It's like, I guess, the best scoring one. It's not me on it, it's the organizers that were part of this story talking about how they're using AI. And this was in October, right? We did the survey in May, and it's just exploding in terms of various usage. But you'll see a vast increase in usage to maximize productivity, right? Basic things as they build confidence that they can generate results, whether it's blast emailing or cold identifying prospects that might align on the exhibit sales side of the equation. You'll have that. Actually, AI might be in the world of video creation and the like. I mean,
it already is. Yep, it already is.
It's a flash fire sort of thing. But at the same time that we see adoption, and everybody needs to jump in. Why? Because if you're not using AI, your competitor is, and they might beat you to whatever you're looking to achieve. But they also need to do it with intentionality, to be careful, to make sure you're protecting your assets for your organization, their cybersecurity. Are the results, if you're doing analysis, we're going to be experimenting with using AI as well. Microsoft Pilot, they have agents and that sort of thing. But methodologically, we need to make sure that it says this, finding, but is that really true? So we'll be, testing that out. So we'll see how far it goes. I mean, maybe some things won't be appropriate, but you've got to experiment. Why wouldn't you? I was at a show for geneticists for this AI, the Young Professionals study, and its use in medical applications is just stunning. That can help identify different disease states, for example, that would not necessarily have been discovered otherwise. So
it's exciting.
It's exciting.
It's exciting. All right. Nancy Drapeau from SEER, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your research, hot off the presses with us at Expo. This is IAEE TV. I'm Amy Sweezy. We are sponsored by TMS and produced by CNTV. Thanks so much for joining us.